The kids are back in school and the evening air getting a little bit cool as we welcome you to the South Hills of Pittsburgh. It's the Gateway Gators and the Mount Lebanon Blue Devils to lift the lid on the 2023 high school football season. Adam Gusky, Vince Russo on the call for you. Wish you a pleasant good evening from Mount Lebanon High School. A rematch of a game from a season ago where the Gators really were able to control Mount Lebanon down the stretch and start the season with a victory. And Vince, really, it was a good way for the Gators to start their 2022 campaign. They want to do it again here on the road.
Yeah, last year at Antimarino Stadium, the Gators, a 21-6 victory. What really stood out in that one early in the season was a Gators team that in the previous season had failed to finish games. They let up a touchdown to Mount Lebanon, made it 14-6 midway through the third quarter. Gators go back down. Brad Birch and company put the ball in the end zone. A very well put together methodical drive made it 21-6 and really put that game out of reach for a young Mount Lebanon team that's gotten a little bit older but still young. A lot of change here in this program. And the Gators, they'll look to do that again this year. Control the pace. They have some veteran leadership and they'll try and get a win.
Talked about Birch, talked about veteran leadership, and he's a bit of both. The senior quarterback starting for his 4th straight year, including 3 straight here at Gateway, and he looks to cap off his senior year with a career year.
And he talked a lot about how in the offseason he spent a lot of time not only trying physically to put on weight, build muscle, get ready for the next level, but to continue to work on the film and reading defenses and sharpening that up a bit. We saw turnovers were a little bit of an issue midway through the season. Gators turned the ball over 3 times in that loss in the playoffs to Upper St. Clair. And so if they can take better care of the ball while still being up-tempo and quick, I think this Gators team could put a lot of people on watch here in 5A.
Now on the other side of the football, the Gateway Gators have Remy Bose, who is an impact player and has been making an impact since he first stepped on the field in Monroeville.
My goodness, yes, and last year took just another step forward in being an all-conference selection, someone that I think they're going to rely on heavily to be sort of the focal point and the leader of that defense. Had a pick 6 last year, was very noticeable, was always a guy driving the pile in the direction you want to see it go, and I think he'll continue to be a catalyst for this defense that was incredibly good last season. Has some holes. They lost some guys. Harper in the backfield. What will they be able to do in the secondary? But Bose there at that linebacker position. Him and Ahmad Harris, I think, are going to be a real strength for the Gators.
Back to the offensive side of the football, and it's the running game with Jaquan Reynolds. Quan has been a fire plug and a lightning bolt for the Gators ever since he stepped on the field as a freshman.
And I really think the Gators offense is at its best when they run the offense through him. He catches the ball well. He's really great in space, elusive, runs good routes, and he's a good runner. 4.4 yards per carry last year. I know that Birch is the highlight reel, and they've got a lot of weapons on the outside, even though they've had some turnover at the receiver position. So I fully anticipate Reynolds being involved in both the rushing and passing attack this season, once again, very heavily.
There's got to be some guys that are going to both open holes for Reynolds and protect Birch, and that's the offensive line. And while there's some experience there are a lot of young players, and they're going to have to deal with a heck of a player from Mount Lebanon, a D1 prospect.
Yeah, 7-11 gone from last year. And talk about starting in the trenches for the Gators. And so they've got some guys returning. They've got some experience there, but a lot of question marks as well. And then Connor Young for Mount Lebanon, an all 6A selection, had a ton of offers. He's going to Navy. He's going to be someone that you're going to want to keep an eye out on there, and it's not going to be hard to see him. 6'3", over 250 pounds. He's someone that's going to move piles, and they're going to move him around the defense. They talked about not wanting him to get pigeonholed inside and doubled, so they're going to be moving him out to the end throughout the game, and so the Gators are going to have to be on their P's and Q's, figuring out where's number 55 out on the field, and how are they going to make sure to take him away and get the ball downfield.
Let's talk about the coaching staffs. On one side of the field, we've got a veteran staff that has been together for quite a while in Don Hall's Gateway Gators staff. On the near side, Mount Lebanon, a new staff, though they do have a lot of experience at multiple levels.
Yeah, Mike Colati spent the last 8 seasons at Elizabeth Forward. The last 6 of those, he got the team into the playoffs, even got him to the championship game in 2020. And he's brought along some folks that are really going to be helpful, put together a good staff. Among that, former Bethel Park coach Jeff Matheny, who was 164 and 104 with the Blackhawks over 24 years, and won the WPIAL Class 4A title in 2008 as well, as former Darien Baldwin coach Tim Sweeney.
It's the Gateway Gators and the Mount Lebanon Blue Devils here in the South Hills of Pittsburgh as both these teams lift the lid on their 2023 season, and you're watching it right here on GatewayGatorProductions.com. Again, Adam Gusky, Vince Russo on the call for you, our entire veteran crew out there in the stands bringing you our broadcast this evening. And the Gators will receive to begin this football game. Back deep to return for Gateway, Kenny Lewis and Terrence Cole. Cole, the sophomore running back, 5'6", 165. And like I said, on the other side, it's Kenny Lewis, the 5'9" junior. Kicking off for Mount Lebanon, it is Bernard McCauley, the 5'9" senior. And we are underway in Mount Lebanon, PA. Kick through the hands of Cole. He'll scoop it up at around the 8. Across the 20. Still on his feet as he crosses the 30 before he is hauled down. Tackle on the play by Henry Lahota. And it'll be 1st and 10 for the Gators out across that 30-yard line. So reasonable field position to get things started for the Gators.
Yeah, and a good job by Cole, not panicking. Ball got through the wicket. You hate to see that, but is able to pick it up and just get himself north to south. Couple good cuts, broke a tackle, gets himself up close to the 35-yard line. So good starting field position for the Gators here.
So Birch will set up in the shotgun to begin this football game. To his left-hand side is Jaquan Reynolds. Hard count, motion man from right to left. Toss goes to that left-hand side. It's pulled in. Derek Selby forced out of bounds near that first down flag. Up across the 40 towards the 42-yard line. If it's not first down, it'll be second and very short. The flags were moving. And they do apparently make it a second down. They'll hand off. Reynolds up the gut. He's got enough for the first down. Out across the 45 to the 46-yard line. And leading the way for the tackle is Maddox Metzger.
And this is something you're going to see from the Gators. We talked about this offseason. Coach Hall changing the philosophy in the offseason. They want to go up tempo more this season, and we're seeing it right from the jump here on this first drive for the Gators.
Little movement up front, no flags fly. Birch off of play action, and he is pressured and brought down. Knifing through there, making the play, Beckham D, the linebacker, the 6'1" senior.
Yeah, broken play there from the jump, and Birch just sort of had to eat that one and take the sack, unfortunately. Take a look at the replay. Not really a whole lot going on there. Good job not trying to force anything.
So Birch on second down and about 14. Off of play action, looks left, now spins out of some token pressure, tosses it far sideline, hauled in on that far boundary, close to the first down flag. On the catch, Kenny Lewis, and if it's not a first down, it'll be third and very manageable.
Yeah, nice job there. Would have liked to have seen Lewis maybe try and adjust that route to account for the sticks and get just behind it, but nonetheless, you go from 2nd and 14, talk about keeping on schedule, 3rd and 1.
Handoff, Reynolds bounces left. He's got the first down and more inside of the 40, forced to the far boundary at around the 35-yard line. Tackle on the play by Matthew Nguyen.
Good job here, good balance for the Gators. A little bit of run, a little bit of pass. One thing they talked about was wanting to take more shots deep. You wonder if they start to lull this defense forward for Mount Lebanon and maybe take a shot here on first down.
Birch claps, starts the play. Reynolds up the middle, nowhere to go as Maddox Metzger makes the tackle. The 6'3", 275 D lineman.
One thing that you see down there for the Blue Devils, they got a good bit of size there on the defensive line, and so this is going to be a tough test here for a lot of new faces for the Gators on the offensive line.
Birch in the gun on 2nd and 10. Play action, looks right, arm deflected, but leaping up, making the catch for the Gators, Kenny Lewis. Kenny Lewis inside of the 20 to around the 19-yard line. That's a Gators first down, a pickup of about 16.
That wasn't the sharpest or most bullet-like of a pass. Lewis had to kind of come back and go up and get that one, but credit to Lewis. He got his head around first before the DB, went back and got that one, and combat catches are important.
Gators into the red zone on 1st and 10 at the 19. Handoff, Reynolds up the middle, steps left and drives his way forward for a couple. Metzger at the bottom of the pile. Also in on the stop, Fred Lasota. Taking a look back to that previous pass, you can see how that one hung up, but Kenny Lewis was able to get there, make the catch. Bring up 1st and 10, now it's 2nd down and 8. Toss left, screen pass, Reynolds on his feet. Dancing left, drives his way down towards the 11. If he sheds that tackle, he may have 6, but a nice open field tackle by Lasota.
Yeah, that was very nice, just staying grounded, lunging, grabbing the ankles. It looked like that was 6 there for a second. Good tackle.
3rd and 3. Up the middle. Reynolds showing power. Drives his way to the 10, and that'll bring up 4th down and 1, and it's decision time for Don Hall and the Gateway coaching staff.
Thing to keep in mind here, a lot on the line, bragging rights and whatnot, but it's a non-conference contest, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them go for it here. Looks like someone lost a shoe.
Lucas Bavino was down at the bottom of the pile on that tackle for Mount Lebanon. And yeah, it does appear that one of the offensive linemen lost a shoe, and heading to the far sideline, Kane Mbendi, 6'2" sophomore. So a reserve offensive lineman comes out there on a pivotal 4th and 1.
See if that changes what kind of play call they go with here.
Birch, option right, pitches. Oh, the pitch is knocked down and scooped up by Mount Lebanon. Off to the races goes a Mount Lebanon player, Patrick Smith. He eludes Birch and takes it all the way for a Mount Lebanon touchdown on the fumbled pitch. So that is certainly not the way the Gators wanted to execute that 4th and 1 deep inside of Mount Lebanon territory. Instead of a 1st down or a turnover on downs, the option pitch broken up by Smith. He scoops it and he scores as he was able to wrestle his way out of the diving tackle by Birch.
You have to wonder if bringing that extra or that reserve lineman in made them hesitant to go straight up the gut with it, and instead trying to go east-west. Patrick Smith just blew that one up.
Now there's a flag down. This may negate the touchdown. We're going to have to get clarification on what this is, as the officials are still talking things over. As it stands right now, a touchdown. We'll have to hear from our referee to get clarification. So a sideline warning against Mount Lebanon. There was a penalty against the Gators as well, but that obviously irrelevant. And Mount Lebanon will come on to kick the PAT with 8:12 to play here in quarter 1. Mount Lebanon strikes first after the Gators were able to drive the ball all the way down to the 10-yard line. With an opportunity to convert on 4th and 1, they do not do so. PAT is up, and that PAT is good. So the kick by Bernard McCauley gives Mount Lebanon a 7-0 advantage.
Gators did just about everything right on that drive, right up until they didn't, Adam. I mean, there was a nice balance of running, passing. Reynolds looked strong. We saw bursts of speed, bursts of power. We saw Birch taking care of the football and able to dink and dunk downfield, and able to connect with Kenny Lewis a bit deeper down the field. And they try to go east-west the one time with the option, and just completely blows up. And credit to Patrick Smith, who was able to knife in there and blew up the play. Blew up the play, and from there was able to keep his eye on the ball. And then from there, it looked like if Birch would have waited a few more seconds before lunging, he might have got him. But you don't expect your quarterback to be out there making tackles. So.
And again, you said about Patrick Smith, got to give him a ton of credit. He read that well. He knocked the ball down to the turf. He got in between that option play and made a big play for the Mount Lebanon Blue Devils. And the penalty against Gateway during the return is going to push the ball forward to the 45-yard line. So Mount Lebanon is going to kick off inside of Gateway territory after the touchdown by Patrick Smith, as he scooped up the option that he knocked down to the turf.
And you wonder if they'll try to get creative here. If they, they could just sort of boot it right out of the back of the end zone, but with everyone sort of hemmed in here, do you try and squib it and force them to return it very deep in their own territory with the kicking team bearing down on you.
Bernard McCauley decides to go with the first option and actually hits it off of the left upright, trying for the Canadian Rouge, but not able to split the uprights. So it'll be 1st and 10 for Gateway. The ball will be set after the touchback at the 20 or 25-yard line, 20-yard line, as the ball will be spotted there. It's Mount Lebanon 7, Gateway 0. Adam Gusky, Vince Russo on the call for you here on GatewayGatorProductions.com. Started out to be a very humid evening when we first arrived here right around 4 o'clock. But it has dropped a bit. Humidity was well over 80% earlier. The temperature has dropped down into the 70s, and there's a little bit of a breeze as well. Quarterback draw for Birch. He'll pick up a couple over that right-hand side as the tackle is made by Marco El Dante.
Well, you look there was a big hole, and that closed up real quick. And El Dante, good job filling in there, filling that hole real quick, taking away that running room.
Play action. Birch hit hard as he looked left, and there's the guy we were talking about, Connor Young, the future Navy midshipman.
Yeah, men among boys out there. You just see from the size, and just looked like he came out completely untouched. And boy, Gators going to have a long season and a long road ahead if they can't keep Birch upright. He can't be taking hits like that.
Yeah, Chase Gabriel was wrestling with Young, held him for just a second, and then Young just shed him. And that brings up 3rd down and 15. Ball back at the 15. Birch again off of play action. Spins, tosses near side, and out of bounds it'll go. 2 Gators were in the vicinity, so we're nowhere near intentional grounding, but the Gators punt unit is going to have to come on as that's a screen. I get it, but you got to hold your ground for a second or two to set up the screen.
Yeah, and again, Young in the backfield, untouched. And he's not only is he large, he's fast. He's got a lot of speed. I mean, he's someone that's going to be playing at the next level and clearly demonstrates it each and every play. And so now Gators deep in their own territory. You got your punter with his heels in the end zone. Never a good sign.
Noah Scarelli to return for the Gateway Gator, or for the Mount Lebanon Blue Devils, as Blake Marsh will punt it away. A punt by Marsh takes a neutral bounce, and now will roll in favor of Mount Lebanon inside of the 40 to the 39. So the Blue Devils, who are up by 7, now have an opportunity inside of Gateway territory. And as we look forward for the Gateway Gators, they've got another road game next week against Woodland Hills, a team who is ranked number 4 in the Trib Live High School Sports Network rankings, before hosting a couple of games at Gateway, including a non-conference game against North Hills and then a rematch against Franklin Regional, a team that beat the Gators a year ago in Murrysville.
Yeah, their lone blemish in conference play. I'm sure they're going to have that circled on their calendar as a game they want to get some revenge.
So first time we see the Blue Devils offense, and it's Michael Malone, the QB. And up the middle goes the tailback, Fred Lasota. And he'll be brought down shy of the 35 at the 36-yard line, so a gain of 4 brings up 2nd down and 6.
We're going to have a short field to work with here, and they do a good job moving that pile initially. Just churning, getting 4 yards there. A lot of new faces. Chase, their quarterback last season.
Pistol formation. Malone, hands off. Again, it's Lasota driving his way inside of the 35 down to the 34-yard line, where the tackle was made by a Gator. Mari Gans on the stop.
Yeah, it was mentioned there's David Shields was their quarterback last season. He turned it on during baseball season at a no-hitter in the 6A final. So he's turned his attention to baseball. So a lot of new faces, including behind center for the Blue Devils.
So Malone in the pistol, hard count. Play action, rolls near side. Steps up, throws, and the pass is incomplete. Nice coverage by Jameer Phillips as the pass was intended for Grayson Beck.
Yeah, good job there, staying on the back of the receiver but not initiating too much contact before that ball came in. Just take another look here on the replay. Just stayed on it and then got his hands in there and disrupted that right at the last minute. That's good coverage.
So this is 4th and reasonably manageable for Mount Lebanon, especially considering they're inside of Gators territory at the 34. Facing this 4th and 4. Malone and sidecar to his left in Lesotho. Looks left, throws left. The pass is caught for Mount Lebanon first down. Pulling that one in is Noah Scarelli out in front of Kenny Lewis.
Good play call there. I mean, don't overthink it. Get your guy in space, quick slant route, quick step inside. They don't need all that much. They needed a few yards. They got it. Keep the chains moving.
So it's first down and 10 for Mount Lebanon. Ball at the Gateway 28. Malone, pistol. Sidecar to his left in Lesotho again. Has time, looks right, throws right. Pass too far, intended to that far side for Grayson Beck.
Well, time to work with there, was able to get that ball out just a little off the mark. But Gators have not gotten a whole lot of pressure thus far in this game. That was really their bread and butter last year, was accelerating the thinking process for quarterbacks in the backfield, able to get a lot of pressure, and certainly you lost a guy like Matthew Brooks inside who was able to create a lot of holes for linebackers like Remy Bose to get through, and they're going to have to figure out what life looks like with some of those guys departing from graduation.
2nd and 10 for the Blue Devils. Setting the traditional pistol, handoff. Lesotho running right, had a crease for a moment, but sliding down to make that stop for the Gators. Mark Knight, tight end and linebacker, 6-foot junior.
Even early in this one, we're calling a lot of names we didn't last year, so you're seeing a lot of new faces on the defensive side of the ball for the Gators, and they've done well thus far, forcing 3rd and 4th situations here with a short field that they were given, but got to be able to get yourself off the field here and try to get that offense back on, get that bad taste out of the mouth after the quick 3 and out and the turnover.
Malone, shotgun this time, sidecar to his right. Looking left the whole time, steps up, throws, pass is incomplete, shorted, intended for Matthew Nguyen. Coverage on the play by Amari Gans for the Gators as he had maybe a fingertip on it before it hit the turf.
Good coverage there. It would have been a real tight window to try and fit that one in, and not quite the arm strength to zip that one out that way. And so the Gators able to force another 4th situation, still a little bit longer, but still sort of in that wheelhouse where you feel like at a non-conference game, why settle for 3 when you can try and take a shot, work on that 4th down offense here.
4th and 8, Malone in the shotgun, rolls to his left. Pressure from behind. He'll step up into the pocket, tuck, run. He'll be hit by Gans. Cleaning up the play for the Gators, Ahmad Harris. And that's enough for a Mount Lebanon first down. So 2 straight 4th down conversions on this possession for Mount Lebanon.
Yeah, all the running room in front there. Took a while to make that decision to finally pull it down and run with it, but then a good job getting to where he needed to be to move the chains there. Gators again get close, but aren't able to get off the field. Now they got their heels in their own red zone, trying to stop the bleeding here, not go down by 2 scores.
Straight eye backfield this time behind Malone. Lesotho dots the eye. We'll go to the fullback instead. And the ball carrier is James Green, who's able to wiggle his way forward inside of the 10. And finally he is brought down at around the 9-yard line. Tackle on the play for the Gators by Jacob Santo.
And right now, battle in the trenches is just going on both sides of the ball to Mount Lebanon. They've been able to move the pile. They haven't had to, none of these plays on this drive have been large chunk plays. That last run by the quarterback, probably the longest one on the drive of about 10 yards. A lot of this has been 5-6 yard runs, just putting the head down and moving the pile.
2nd down and about 3 with the ball at the 10. Handoff, bouncing right, Lesotho. hit at the line of scrimmage, and he will be brought down. Ahmad Harris amongst some Gators on the tackle, also Elijah Fisher.
Good job closing in quickly there, gang tackling by the Gators, getting a lot of helmets in there on the ball. Again, you'd think this is 4-down territory, so they've still got a lot of work ahead of them here in a 3rd and short situation.
Back to the I go the Mount Lebanon Blue Devils on 3rd down and about 3 again. And the ball comes loose. Do the Gators pull it away, or does Malone roll out of there with the rock? He does. 2 Gators were there, but Malone was able to pull it away from Amari Gans, and that'll bring up 4th down and 3, and the field goal unit's going to come out for the Mount Lebanon Blue Devils, and we will see Bernard McCauley, who's already kicked a PAT and a couple of kickoffs thus far.
A break for the Gators there, and good job keeping his eyes on the ball there for Malone, able to jump on that one quick.
Snap low, hold good though, and that kick is up, and that kick no good, and Gateway keeps Mount Lebanon off of the board as the Gators certainly dodge that proverbial bullet, much to the joy of the Gators faithful who made the trip on the bus from the East Hills of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I was hearing that the student section filled up not 1 but close to 2 buses, so a good showing from the Gators faithful going across town, and a nice showing here. Nice crowd here for the first Friday. But yeah, the Gators dodged a bullet there. They get the fumble, which forces the 4th down, and then good pressure there on the outside to force that kick left and to force a quick kick there. And now long field for the Gators, but they've got the offense. We saw them move it from here all the way down inside the red zone. Now can they punctuate?
Handoff, Reynolds goes right initially, then cuts it back to his left-hand side, driving his way out across the 20 towards the 24-yard line before he's stacked up by a host of blue jerseys. Down at the bottom of the pile, Lucas Bavino, 6 feet, 265-pounder.
They're going to keep with this no huddle, up-tempo offense, see if this starts to wear on Mount Lebanon a little bit.
Snap goes awry. Birch scoops it up, though, tosses to that left-hand side, and the pass will be incomplete on that far boundary. And that's kind of fortunate for Gateway, because had Selby caught it, he probably would have stepped out of bounds for a loss of a couple. Instead, it'll be 3rd down and 7 instead of 2nd down and 9.
Yeah.
Or 3rd and 9, excuse me.
You see a little bit of a pop there late. Birch takes another hit early in this one. He's had a rough go of it here. Doesn't feel like he's had a lot of time to really get himself settled or go through his reads.
Good snap this time. Birch goes down to a knee as he is swallowed over. Pressure this time coming from Joseph Malone over that left-hand side. And the Gateway offensive front having a very difficult time with this big defensive front from Mount Lebanon.
Yeah, hard to say much other than he hasn't had any time to look downfield whatsoever, and so there's no real opportunity to make plays when you're just sort of tucking it and trying to run for your life. And once again, the Gators punting from within their own end zone and going to be setting up the Blue Devils with really good field position and putting that defense on the field that just had to work for half the quarter to get off the field.
Blake Marsh, low snap. He's able to get it away, though. This one will take a bounce in favor of the Gators out towards the 50 before being downed by Carlos Diggs, and it'll be 1st and 10 for Mount Lebanon starting at the midfield stripe. So through the first quarter, Vince, we've seen the Gateway Gators move the ball all the way down to the Mount Lebanon 10, but on 4th down and 1, the Gators turn it over, an option pitch broken up and returned for a TD by the Mount Lebanon Blue Devils' Patrick Smith. As we take a look ahead for Mount Lebanon, playing Gateway tonight, number 1 in both rankings in 5A. Then they will make the short trip down Route 19 to take on the Bethel Park Blackhawks before hosting the Moon Tigers, and then they will step into 6A play against Central Catholic and on the road against Seneca Valley. So a pretty tough road to hoe as well for Mount Lebanon.
Yeah, and then you look at, they're playing a lot of the teams from the Allegheny 6 Conference and 5A in the non-conference. And though Upper St. Clair graduated a lot of folks, they're still expected to be good. Peters Township expected to have a strong season. So there's going to be a lot of tests this season for a young Mount Lebanon team that made it to the playoffs last season and lost in the semifinals to now the proverbial favorite in 6A Central Catholic. But talking about the Gators, Adam, we saw this last year. Resiliency is so key, right? Things were going very well for the Gators that opening drive, and sure, both teams are making adjustments in real time, but you've seen sort of some of that confidence go away from that Gators offense after that fumble recovery for a touchdown and then the quick 3 and out. Got to be able to put that stuff behind you, especially here, just 1 quarter into your season and a non-conference game. A lot of lessons to be learned. You got to keep focused on the next play.
Under center goes Malone. He's going to hand off. Ball carrier is James Green. And Green, with a head of steam, drives his way inside of the 45 to the 44-yard line.
Seems like every first down, they've gotten a really good push and set themselves up with second and manageable. From there, it's where they've had some issues. They've been a little one-dimensional, not really been able to pass the ball other than the 1 third down conversion with a quick slant. We'll see if that comes back to haunt them or if they're able to keep moving the ball effectively on the ground.
Malone under center on 2nd and 5. Hands off, Green goes left, hesitates for a moment, and then drives his way for a gain of 1 or 2 before tackle is made by Mark Knight for the Gators.
Good job there. See, once again, something this Gators team is known for is once that initial contact is made, they do a good job. Guys fly into the ball, continuing to pump those legs, try to move the ball carrier back. So minimal gain there. And once again, Gators have an opportunity to try and get themselves off the field here. They forced Mount Lebanon into a lot of 3rd and 4th down situations here early in this one, even though they've given up some pretty decent field position.
Blue Devils send trips to the right with Malone in the pistol. Gateway showing a blitz. Green goes right, close to that first down flag as he carries it inside of the 40, and they'll say maybe just shy of the 39-yard line as TJ Mitchell makes the stop for Gateway.
Yeah, good job there. Winning that battle right at the sticks, and now looks like they're going to bring in a little bit of a heavier package here and just try and will their way forward. I don't blame them. They've done a good job winning the battle up front. Go out there and tell your guys to get less than 3 feet.
Split backs behind Malone. Wing on the right, Krabs to the left. Hand off, Green. He's got the first down as he drives his way across the flag and brought down and around the 43, inside of the 43, as Mark Knight makes the tackle for Gateway.
Yeah, good play call. Don't overcomplicate things. You're winning those battles up front. Just tell your guys to go out and execute as they have been routinely. And that's going to be the story in this one, is the Gators can start to get a push in the trenches here if they're just going to continue to get driven back. Could be a long night for them.
1st and 10 for Mount Lebanon. As the handoff goes this time to Lesota, and Lesota will pick up maybe a yard before being hit and brought down. Amari Gans leads the charge for the Gators. Carlos Diggs also in the stop for Gateway.
So Gators get a nice stop there and force a 2nd and long, which they have not been able to do through much of this one. Blue Devils, to their credit, have been staying on schedule, methodically able to take just chunks and 4 to 6 yard increments here.
2nd and 9. Power pistol to receivers right. Ball comes loose. Malone was down on his knees as the ball came loose on, I'm not sure if that was designed to be play action or not, to Lesota. But like I said, ball down to the turf and Malone down on his knees to scoop that one up before Mark Knight got in there for Gateway. So a loss on that play of 5 brings up 3rd down. I think a loss of 6 brings up 3rd down and 15.
Another big break. Mount Lebanon's kind of shot themselves in the foot here early and kind of gift-wrapped opportunities to keep the Gators just 7 points away here. Not a whole lot of penalties, not a whole lot of procedural issues, which you often see in week 0 and week 1, but a lot of fumbles.
Malone out of the pistol, looks left the whole way, throws to that left-hand side. The pass is complete, sitting down in the zone and pulling that one in for Mount Lebanon is Noah Scarelli, 6'1" junior. That brings up 4th down and a very manageable, about 1.5 here.
Hey, talk about staying on schedule. They didn't get the first down there, but again, when you're inside the 30-yard line, it's 4-down territory, and now they can go back to their bread and butter, which is just try and move this pile a few yards and get the ball upfield.
Again, split backs with the slot on the right, crabbing to the left. And a flag flies and a false start against Mount Lebanon. That's going to cost them 5. And now things change a bit for Mount Lebanon on 4th and 6, instead of 4th down and 1. Let's see what Michael Colati does as there are substitutions coming out on the field. Does that indicate the punt unit, or do they go to the air here?
I think they go to the air. Looks like they're still in an offensive formation. You take some of the heavy guys out. You're not trying to bulldoze for 2 yards. You're trying to get some guys in space downfield.
Malone steps up into the pocket, flush to the right. He's going to tuck, he's going to run, he's going to spin his way forward, and he has enough for a Mount Lebanon first down, as again the Blue Devils are able to pick up a first down on 4th down. And for the second time, it's by the feet of the quarterback, Michael Malone.
That's where your DNs have to not get sucked in. You've got to be able to stay out there on the end and try and push the ball carrier up the gut back toward your linebackers there. That's the second time on a 4th down the quarterback's been able to roll out and have a lot of green in front of him, and by the time the secondary comes up, able to plant their feet and make the tackle, they've already got the fresh set of downs.
Straight shotgun this time. QB is Patrick Smith. Smith takes a step left, then goes to the right-hand side, and he will be brought down inside of the 25 at around the 24, maybe the 23. As we're a gang of Gators there, including Donovan Biggs. The flag came down as well. That's going to be holding against Mount Lebanon, and that's going to cost them 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. Now, that flag happened in the backfield, but that's a rule change this year, right, Vince?
It is. They're having a few of them this year, and so they've changed, including that one, the enforcement and spot for fouls behind the line of scrimmage. And so penalty enforcement spot for fouls committed behind the line will be changed to the line of scrimmage for most fouls. And previously, the enforcement spot was the spot of the foul. So it changes the excessive penalties, such as offensive holding that we just saw, which occur in the backfield.
So if that happened at around the 26 or 27, it would have been back to the 37. Instead, line of scrimmage was the 25. Now it's the 35 after that 10-yard penalty on 1st and 20. Malone pressured, wrapped, sacked. Coming in a house of fire for the Gateway Gators is TJ Mitchell.
Mitchell doing what no Gator's really been able to do at all this evening. Knife through, create some pressure, and now create second and a country mile for Mount Lebanon. And a couple plays here, one self-inflicted by the Blue Devils, another one good execution defensively by the Gators that flipped the field a little bit and hopefully will allow this defense to try and get off the field.
Scoreboard says 2nd down and 35. It's more like 2nd down and 31, with the line to gain being the 15-yard line and the ball back at the 46. Handoff for Mount Lebanon. Running to the right-hand side is James Green. Green inside of the 45, where he will be brought down at around the 43-yard line.
So the handoff to 6, the tackle by 6, and you know, if you're Ahmad Harris and the Gators defense, you just try to bend and not break here, and more importantly, not give up a huge chunk play. Last time that the Blue Devils were in a 3rd and long situation, they were able to complete a pass across the middle, make it 4th and short, and then credit to Mount Lebanon, they've been excellent on 4th down on this one, so you want to try and remove any of that thought process of 4-down territory, trying to either push them back or stymie them here at the line, try and get that punt unit out.
Clock down to 4 minutes, 20 seconds remaining in quarter 2. Mount Lebanon up 7-0. And the Blue Devils are going to be forced to call a timeout as Michael Colati didn't like what he saw from his Blue Devils offense.
You talk about the offense. Feels like it's been a minute since we've seen the Gators offense out on the field. You see Birch on the other side of the field continuing to warm up, get himself back into rhythm, because they've been over there for a good, what feels like in real time, probably 10, 15 minutes since the last time they touched the ball. Mount Lebanon really hasn't had any large chunk plays, but they've just been continuing to chip away down the field and eat a lot of clock in the process.
Time to take a look at the Post-Gazette 5A rankings. Gateway, the consensus #1 in both rankings. Pine Richland #2, Penn Hills #3. Peters Township just down the road is #4, and Penn Trafford in the Gators Conference rounds out the top 5 in the PG rankings. Now on the other side, the Trib rankings, a little bit different. As you see, Gateway still on top. Penn Hills is #2, Pine Richland 3. But Woodland Hills, who has some talent, some young talent, especially quarterback and receiver, and Bethel Park rounds out the top 5 on the Trib side.
And we'll see them next week when we're at the Wolverina, and that's a team that has a test tonight with Central Catholic. We'll see how they do in that one. But as always, 5A consensus-wise looks like it's going to be the most loaded, most competitive classification. And wouldn't be surprised to see a team that's not on one of those lists make some noise. This is a tough classification top to bottom.
So Malone breaks a tight formation out to trips right and 2 receivers left. So he's all by himself back there.
Some movement.
And a flag comes in far side as one of those receivers on that far side moved early. And a false start is going to push the ball back 5 more. So instead of 3rd down and what the scoreboard says is 29, it'll be 3rd down and 34.
Yeah, clearly some movement there at the top. We haven't seen a whole lot of penalties. It's starting to creep up a little bit here in the midway point of the second quarter. You know, Adam, we talked about teams in 5A rankings, things like that. Going to go off the beaten path. A team to keep a little bit of an eye on that's returning almost everyone from last year, and a team that gave the Gators trouble, Plum Mustangs. Got a talented running back this year, and they could return 9 of 11 starters on both sides of the ball.
And boy, do they have something to play for this season. 3rd down and 34. Malone looks left, looks back right. Now he's going to tuck up the gut. Drives his way inside of the 45 and will be brought down shy of the 40. Nice open field tackle by TJ Mitchell.
Had a good job by Ahmad Harris. You'll see at the end. Doesn't come in and lay that late hit. Eases up. Last thing you need to do is give 15 yards and a fresh set of downs. Good head there by Harris. Now you get the punt team on for the first time tonight for the Blue Devils. You get a chance to see the special teams on the other side with Kenny Lewis on the return.
Bernard McCauley will punt this one away for Mount Lebanon, who's going to let as much clock wind down as possible here on this 4th down play. Snap true, punt away by McCauley, and like you said, Kenny Lewis on the return for Gateway from around the 5. Across the 10. The 20 as he is grabbed by his jersey, wrestled to the far sideline and out of bounds. Strong play there by Patrick Smith, who's already made a huge play for Mount Lebanon, responsible for the lone score of the evening thus far.
Yeah, the difference maker and the one that's put a score in this game for what overall has been on both sides of the ball offensively. Both teams have moved the ball at various points. Now Mount Lebanon has possessed it for far longer than the Gators. But both teams have gotten the ball within striking distance, but offensively have been unable to come away with anything. And now the Gators, this is a good opportunity here, a 3-minute drill. You want to play up-tempo. This fits into your style of offense perfectly. You got 3 minutes to try and move the ball down the field. Tie this up before the half.
Birch and Reynolds in the backfield. Birch steps right, and that slow developing play allows time for Beckham D to find his way into the Gators backfield and sack Birch.
Yeah, they got to get rid of the ball quicker. I mean, if they're not going to, they know they're not winning these battles tonight, and so you've just got to try and find ways to get that ball out of Birch's hands a little bit quicker and into the hands of those playmakers. See if they try and set up another screen here or something to Reynolds as they're putting him out to the left now.
Birch, shotgun on 2nd and 15 after the sack. And there's that screen you're talking about to the left-hand side for Reynolds, and he will pick up about 4 after losing 5 on 1st down. The Gators offense is going to face a 3rd down and about 11. And Mount Lebanon's going to take a timeout smartly here, because if they get a stop, they get the ball back with a reasonable amount of time remaining.
This kind of feels like the antithesis of last year's game thus far, where the Gators were the ones that really, though it was a low-scoring game and it took until late in the game for them to really create separation on the scoreboard, you never felt like Mount Lebanon was in danger of really winning that game. Thus far, other than that first drive by the Gators that ended with the return touchdown for Mount Lebanon, you haven't really felt the threat of this big play offense. And a lot of that's, frankly, just because they haven't been able to give Birch enough time to get settled in the pocket and to move the ball. And so it's going to be interesting. Are they able to keep calm, cool, and collected here? We've seen this team get emotional, get frustrated, and sort of lose its cool down the stretch. They faced a lot of adversity here through the first half. They're going to have to try and dig deep and find a way to make adjustments on the fly, because what they're doing is just not working right now.
Offensive coach Donnie Hall in the center of that huddle. His dad, Don Hall, the head coach, upstairs in the booth here. He likes that angle and view a lot better. So 3rd and 11 here for the Gators. Ball at their own 19. Saw the Gators start their first drive out near the 30-yard line and drove it all the way down to the 10 before Patrick Smith broke up a option on 4th down and 1 and took it back to the house for a scoop and score, the lone score of the game. Birch has some time this time. Going to tuck and run left. Wrestles his way through the first tackler, but is brought down by the second wave. So good strength there to avoid Connor Young, but not able to get enough as he crosses the 20 out to the 21. Brings up 4th and 9.
It looked like for at least a second there, might have had Derek Selby across the middle, as we saw toward the top of our screen there, but no dice for, I guess Mount Lebanon's going to try and keep that last timeout for when they got the ball on offense. The clock's going to run a little bit here, but they're going to get the ball again with decent field position, especially if they can get a return off here.
Gateway is going to, Mount Lebanon's going to use their final timeout. It looked like Gateway was going to have to use a timeout because they were a tackler shy, and there was a huge hole on the right guard side of that special teams unit. And Vince, I'll tell you what, that is definitely something that is not uncommon at this time of year, especially since most teams elect to play week 0 instead of having that second scrimmage. When you don't have that second scrimmage, you're not able to really buckle down on knowing who's on what specials.
Absolutely. And this being definitely more than a glorified scrimmage, but certainly not a full-fledged conference game or game that holds a ton of weight. Everything tonight should be taken with somewhat of a grain of salt. So there's going to be adjustments made, and things are going to continue to flesh themselves out, even just over the course of these 48 minutes. And certainly you're going to see some of those mistakes. And as you'll always probably see with how humid we talked about it is, we might see some cramping in the second half and guys going down as they're still getting acclimated. So we'll see a little bit of everything tonight.
Blake Marsh on to punt for Gateway. Noah Scarelli back deep to return for the Mount Lebanon Blue Devils. Snap a little high, but the Gators get it away, and it'll take a bounce at around the 40, out across the 45 to the near boundary, near the midfield stripe. So Mount Lebanon's going to take over at around the 46-yard line, so decent field position with 93 seconds left in quarter 2, but they don't have any timeouts in their pocket anymore.
Yeah, and they were fortunate enough. Marsh had a lot of heat there in the kitchen and was able to sort of pooch punt that one away quickly before it got blocked. And so he didn't get all that one, at least was able to muscle that one out toward midfield. It looks like they're going to down that at the 46 officially. And so the Gators have to dig deep one more time here. They've got the timeouts they can use if they need to readjust or they see assignments and matchups they don't like. But they have been really flirting with disaster here, giving Mount Lebanon 3 straight possessions in their own offensive territory.
Malone in the shotgun at the midfield stripe, rolls left, looks back right. He's pressured, steps up into the pocket, and he'll be wrapped and brought down after a gain of about 1. Tackle on the play for Ahmad Harris for Gateway.
Mark Knight was coming in like a bat out of hell on the weak side there. You see him come up. And so good job there by the quarterback, able to sort of step in there and at least get something out of nothing there.
So the ball moved just inside of the 46 as again Malone is pressured. He'll roll right this time, calling out for some blockers, and he'll step to the boundary instead of being tattooed by Mark Knight. So 63 seconds remain here in quarter number 2, just before halftime. Mount Lebanon now facing a 3rd down and about a half a dozen.
If you're the Gators, you can get a stop here yourself. The officials are taking their own timeout. We got a first victim of cramping, Carlos Diggs, there on the far side of the field. Tradition you see here in week 0, as we talked about. I mean, we were putting that equipment together. You start off the broadcast talking about how it's cooled down a little, and it certainly has, even though it doesn't feel like it. But my goodness, was it hot today? And these players, I'm sure, are going to feel it throughout the evening. But if the Gators can get a stop here, Adam, they get a chance to try and get the ball back, especially if they can keep the ball, an incomplete pass or from being touched down. The Gators do still have timeouts, all 3 of them, in fact. So you got an opportunity to get the ball back, and if you can try and accelerate this offense and have Birch get the ball out a little quicker, and you got playmakers. Every year we talk about the Gators have no shortage of athletes, no shortage of talent. It's just whether or not that lines up at the right positions, the right matchups, and if they're able to schematically put them in a position to do what they need to do to be successful.
So when we do get back to live action, it will be 3rd down and 7 for Mount Lebanon with the football at the 43-yard line of the Gateway Gators, as Carlos Diggs was able to get to his feet and make his way to the far sideline. This gave the defensive staff of the Gateway Gators, led by Morty Ivy, an opportunity to talk things over. Morty Ivy, standout player at Gateway, West Virginia, and then had a stint in the NFL, including with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Gotta watch the quarterback rolling out here. That's been the real bugaboo on 3rd and 4th and manageable here.
Malone looks right, has time, now steps up into the pocket. The Gators will converge on him. If he turns the corner, he can get the first down, and he does turn that corner. And not only does he get the first down, he steps out of bounds at the 35, so the clock doesn't even start once the ball is set.
That's exactly what we just warned of, is keep a spy on that quarterback. And Michael Malone doing it with his legs. He's really been the main catalyst for this offense, and there he's able to suck in a couple of guys there in the defensive backfield. Amari Gans over pursues a little bit, and then Malone's able to turn on the jets, get outside. And Gators shooting themselves in the foot there, had every opportunity to try and get off the field here.
Malone has certainly done his best to hurt the Gators with his feet thus far. Malone again in the shotgun. Steps up into the pocket again, throws to that far sideline as the Gators slip down in coverage. Wide open down the far boundary is Noah Scarelli, and he will wrestle his way all the way down to around the 1-yard line. Initially in coverage, Amari Gans slipped down right near the line of scrimmage, and that allowed Scarelli to find himself wide open down that far boundary. And like I said, tug and pull his way all the way down to that 1, wrestling with Jareer Phillips.
Clock running, but you see on the back end of that, even this is the first game that I can remember in quite some time, maybe since the Thomas Jefferson game a few seasons ago, where the Gators just looked physically overpowered here in the first half.
So 1st and goal at the 1 for the Blue Devils. Split backs, wing crabs right. Malone rolls right, throws to that right-hand side, and the pass is incomplete, intended to Fred Lasota, the 5'10 senior.
I was wondering if they'd try and run it up the gut there. They've done a good job, but you're really rolling the dice there with no timeouts and under 25 seconds left. So the incompletion, kind of like clocking it there, even just throwing it out of the back of the end zone. Now you have 3 opportunities here with 19 seconds. See what they draw up here.
Again, the wing on the right, crabs left. Handoff up the gut, and a Mount Lebanon touchdown as into the end zone goes Beckham D.
D scored the lone touchdown against the Gators last season on the ground, and so that's 2 years in a row. He finds pay dirt against this Gators defense, and Gators just have no answers on either side of the ball right now for this size that Mount Lebanon has brought into this contest.
And not only is it size, it's experience size. And that makes a huge difference. PAT is up, and that PAT is good, and Mount Lebanon takes a 14-0 lead on the Gateway Gators. And this could be a lot worse based on some of the field position the Blue Devils have had, including a missed field goal.
Yeah, and three drives in a row, Adam, where they've started with the ball in Gators territory, and for the Gators to be able to cut that bleeding to just 7 points while being on the field the majority of really the back half of the first quarter and the entirety of the second quarter. It feels like it's been forever since we've seen the Gators offense.
Unsportsmanlike conduct against the Mount Lebanon Blue Devils, so they're going to have to kick off deep from their own territory, so that'll set Gateway up with a decent, at least, return opportunity and maybe even one decent shot at the end zone offensively. You'd love to see Gateway do something with the talent they have to get on the scoreboard here in the late stages of the second quarter, and it's not out of the realm of possibility with the kind of players Gateway has.
Oh, no, we've seen this offense with quick strike capability year after year, even when the players change. You know, we've seen guys go play at the next level or guys graduate, and still every year it seems like they're able to find guys on the outside of this offense. But some points would be nice because Mount Lebanon's going to get the ball back to start the third quarter. That's something to keep an eye on is, you know, if they're able to take another one of these drives and really grind down the clock and let's say take 6 to 8 minutes off the clock in the third quarter and get some points, all of a sudden it starts to become a question of time. If the Gators have enough time even to get back into this game, even though they're only down a couple scores right now.
So after unsportsmanlike conduct against Mount Lebanon, the ball will move from the 40 back to the 25. So Gateway is going to have an opportunity, like I said, to return this kick, not only with decent field position, but you know, when you get this opportunity with the kind of talent that Gateway has, a kickoff return for a touchdown, not even outside the realm of possibility, especially with guys like Kenny Lewis back there.
Right, Lewis has been doing it for a couple seasons now. You know, he's no stranger. Maybe that's why they kicked it away from him to start the game and put it in the hands of Terrence Cole, who bobbled it, but still put together a decent return to get the ball out to the 35. So you feel, you know, both of those guys are back there for a reason. They've touted them out, practiced. Now it's time to make hay. They've got an opportunity here, like you said, Adam, if nothing else, to get this ball into opponent's territory and give Birch the opportunity to get one into the end zone.
McCauley going to test his leg and end over end kick. Lewis retreats back to around the 22 on the return. Runs right, has a crease up the middle momentarily. Slides past the first tackler, but can't get past the second wave, which was led by Grayson Beck. So Gateway does have decent field position at the 39, but it could have been a lot better.
Yeah,
had it not been for a great kick by Bernard McCauley. Sorry, Vince.
No, you're good. That was a great kick by McCauley, and then a good job. That one sort of hung a little bit too, which allowed those guys to get downfield on the kick coverage team. And Lewis tried to go a little east-west and then cut it north, and good job. Guys stayed home for Mount Lebanon and didn't over-pursue, and so now you wonder if they try and maybe get something toward the sidelines, get a quick chunk of yards here, and then just set Birch up with an opportunity to maybe give it a good heave-ho into the end zone. But the line's going to have to hold and give him a good 4 or 5 seconds if he's going to get that ball into the end zone, give the receivers enough time to get downfield.
Birch with a sidecar to his left in Reynolds. Toss near side left. It's complete. Running near boundary. Derek Selby lowers the shoulder, initiates the contact with Marco Alante.
That's just how you wanted to draw it up. You get the ball past the 50. Selby, immediately good job. Takes off toward the sidelines. And I like seeing a little bit of a pop there. The Gators have not shown the most life here since that first drive. And so Selby trying to bring some energy, bring some physicality. He's someone who made an impact in this offense last season, who I could see being an even bigger difference maker this year.
So 1st and 10, toss near side. It's complete. And stepping to the boundary with no time left was Derek Selby. And that was a situation, Vince, where I think a timeout may have helped Gateway really settle down, decide on a play that can get you an opportunity to score instead of just a stat sheet stuffer.
And Selby, who even caught the ball, sort of had his hands up, was a little bit confused on what exactly was supposed to happen there. And so the Gators squander an opportunity to at least try and get the ball pushed down the field into the end zone, come away with nothing. And if you're Mount Lebanon, you can't ask for much more of a picture-perfect first half there as they, you know, the one good opportunity the Gators had, they nullify it, take it back the entire other way for a touchdown, and then really just control the line of scrimmage from there on out, able to put 7 more on the board, but more importantly, just kind of play keep away from Birch in this offense, which when they've had the ball, they haven't been able to do much with it because they haven't had the time.
Nor have they had the field position because Mount Lebanon continues to get the ball deep inside of Gateway territory. And while they haven't scored a ton of points, they have had the Gators on their heels. Like you said, a lot of that has to do with the fact that Gateway is being controlled on the front on both sides.
Sure, it's been a masterclass in field position and sort of the nuance and the smaller points of the game. I mean, when you're punting from your own end zone and your opponent's taking over inside your 50 each time, you're just playing on your heels the entire game, and that advantage has proven to be the difference, along with the fumble return touchdown by Patrick Smith that started off our scoring.
We're going to step away here at halftime. When we return, we'll get you set for the second half. In the meantime, enjoy the marching bands from Gateway and Mount Lebanon. For Vince Russo, I'm Adam Gusky. You're watching GatewayGatorProductions.com.
High School Marching Band.
Ladies and gentlemen, we humbly present the 2023 Mount Lebanon Blue Marching Band. Ever since he was first on using in 2010, Bruno Mars has been charged with his diverse songwriting excursions into fun, R&B, and reggae. Born in Hawaii in 1985, the Uptown Kingmaker has not only become most successful sports
My kids graduate, they're playing for the North.
30 records worldwide today. Just as Bruno songs and Bruno remarkably like that, making breathtaking the sounds of the past. Like the song tricks of the 70s, Mars has managed to appease both fans and delight, while always in the footsteps of his idols Prince and Michael Jackson. The Blue Devil Band knows what you like. Please enjoy Chuck Parker Captain, Runaway Baby, Uptown Funk, and Lock Them Heaven. AJ, is your band ready? Thank you. You are invited to stay after the game to see Mount Lebanon High School's competitive football show.
I'll mold the fourth now. Go.
Fans of football, we want to extend a thank you to people who are down beautiful football on the Delaware. Our state citizens for their generous sponsorship. Learn more about by visiting online Instagram at This time, we're going to depart the forces who have subscribed and associated for their generous support of the Blue Devil football program. As your senior associates of local plans, helping the local people serving community for more than 40 years. Visit insider.com to learn more. We will follow the fans, JP's institution, as this being recognized by Forbes as the best state, featuring top tier national security professionals with over 55 years of combined experience. The JP's is dedicated to securing your financial future. We join you in celebrating great achievements. Visit www.jpsfinancial.com to learn how they can help you towards prosperity and peace of mind in all areas of business.
Set to begin half number 2 here in the South Hills of Pittsburgh. Adam Gusky, Vince Russo on the call for you this evening. And Vince, it was a tough first half for the Gateway Gators, especially when you take a look at the way Gateway came out, got a decent return, moved the ball all the way down to the Mount Lebanon 10-yard line, 4th down and 1. They had an opportunity to get a first down. They had a player lose a shoe. That slowed things down and then ultimately led to an option play to the right-hand side that was knocked down by Patrick Smith, and he scooped it up and returned it all the way to the house for the first touchdown of the game, and it's been all Mount Lebanon since.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like we've seen that Gators offense from that play on. It seems like that confidence has gone away a little bit. Mount Lebanon is dug in. They understand that they're bullying and really dominating the trenches right now, and so everything's getting pushed back. And, you know, it's hard to evaluate Brad Birch in the first half because we really haven't had a chance to see him get comfortable whatsoever and get his eyes downfield. He's running for his life right now, and so it's tough. Mount Lebanon, full credit to them. They have a lot of size, a lot of experience size, as you said, and it's wreaked a lot of havoc. And then on the other side of the ball, it's allowed them to possess the ball and play keep away and have 3 really long drives, and much to the Gators' defensive credit, they've only come away with 7 points there to make this a 2-score game.
And don't forget, there was a missed field goal in there as well by Mount Lebanon, so this could be 17-0 or even worse had it not been for that Gateway defense. I think one thing that the Gators had to talk about in the locker room is they need to start to get some quick hitters offensively. Birch is pressured, throw the ball to the sidelines, get the ball to the hands of those guys with some speed and make something happen.
Yeah, saw a couple of nice grabs by Derek Selby right there before the end of the half. Certainly Mount Lebanon is just in prevent defense at that point, but take what the defense gives you, get the ball out quickly. They tried to do that a little bit with Reynolds, but it became predictable going to that swing screen pass to him, and so maybe they fake that and take a shot across the middle. We'll see what happens, but they've got to change what they're doing from a play calling standpoint if they're going to have any success and get back into this game.
And I think on the other side of the football, Mount Lebanon's got to be very happy. They've got a young coaching staff, a team that's really just getting their legs under them, and they've come out here and they've dictated pace other than that first drive.
But I will say they've still made some mistakes along the way. There's been some penalties. The Gators have done a good job. They played a pretty clean game as far as penalties have gone. We've seen some holding penalties. We've seen a number of fumbles and snaps. And granted, this is week 0. We're going to see some of those things. But while they've flirted with disaster and gotten away from it, it hasn't necessarily been the cleanest game thus far for Mount Lebanon thus far, though they are up by a couple scores. Mount
Lebanon's going to get the ball to begin the second half because Gateway started the second half with the football. And this may be the first time we see Mount Lebanon faced with the long field challenge.
Yeah, 3 consecutive drives, as we talked about in that first half, where they started with the ball in Gators territory. And again, you know, you talk about little things. Mount Lebanon's got to be a little disappointed. They only came away with 7 points out of those 3 opportunities and did have the missed field goal where they really didn't protect all that well. And the Gators got some really good pressure to accelerate that kick and make it go wide left.
So Blake Marshall will kick off for the Gateway Gators. Blue Devils have 1 deep return man. Fading to that right side. It'll bounce all the way into the end zone for a touchback. Nice kick by Marsh as Scarelli allows it to bounce across the end line. For a touchback, it'll be 1st and 10 for the Blue Devils at the 20.
So this probably will be the worst field position that they have had thus far this evening, and we'll see if they open things up at all. If I'm Mount Lebanon, I just stick with that bread and butter of reeling off 3 to 5 yards every play, keeping it on the ground. They had a lot of success with that in the first half. A couple different backs in the backfield, but mainly going with James Green, the 5'9", 170-pound junior running back.
Power pistol. Lesota dots that pistol and takes the handoff over the right-hand side, drives his way forward out towards the 25, so a nice gainer on 1st and 10. And it's a gain of about 4.5 towards that 25-yard line before Lesota was stacked up.
You know, Lesota, he's got a bit of height on him, 5'10", but only 185 pounds, but boy, he plays a lot bigger than that. He always seems to fall forward. He's done a good job moving piles tonight.
Malone, the QB, in the pistol. Again, he'll hand off. Lesota bouncing it right, drives his way across the line of scrimmage and out towards the 28-yard line before being brought down at the bottom of the pile for Gateway's Mark Knight.
You talk about Malone, this is sort of where he shines, these 3rd and 4th down situations where they've spread the offense out a little bit more often than not. He's called his own number, pulled the ball down on passing plays. I wonder if they'll try and incorporate maybe some more design runs for the quarterback here. He's been really nimble on his feet and has been very elusive here in the first half, and now the beginning of the second half potentially.
Malone's going to step under center here with an eye backfield behind him. Handoff. Up the middle goes James Green, I do believe. And he will be stacked up and brought down a hair shy of the first down flag. Tackle on the play by Amari Gans. And that was 5 versus 5 as Beckham D was the ball carrier at the fullback spot, because we've seen 4, 5, and 6 all carry the ball out of the backfield for Mount Lebanon. Talked about James Green already. We've also talked about Lesotho, but that's the first time we've seen D carry the ball here in half 2.
This is a big play here. We'll see if they pooch punt it or if they call a timeout just trying to draw the Gators offside. But if the Gators can get a stop here, this would be huge, deep in their own territory.
Malone under center, and the left guard moves early. And that is catastrophic for Mount Lebanon. Hard count brings Maddox Metzger offsides. As he breaches that neutral zone from the offensive side, the false start moves them back, and the punt unit will come on for the Lebo.
So another self-inflicted one. Like I said, Mount Lebanon has clearly played very well tonight, very physically tonight, but it has not been without blemishes along the way. And there you talk about an opportunity to keep a drive going, to sustain keeping that offense on the field, and now they give the ball right back to the Gators, who, if they're able to get a little bit of a return here, end up with some decent field position for Brad Birch and company.
Snap a little bit high, but hauled in by McCauley. And he gets a decent punt away that takes an even nicer roll for Mount Lebanon all the way inside the 35 to the 34 before being down by Matthew Nguyen. It'll be 1st and 10 for Gateway across the 30 at the 34. Gateway started the first half with similar field position, able to drive the ball all the way to the 10 before turning it over and leading to the first Lebo TD.
They looked incredibly crisp in doing so, but since then have not seen or been able to replicate such success. We'll see if they're able to continue to dink and dunk here a little bit, if they're able to get some guys in space, including Jaquan Reynolds.
So the Gators go straight from the sideline to the line of scrimmage as Roberson Louis-June steps over the football, and the Gators go to the ground on first down. Jaquan Reynolds picks up a yard as he surges out across the 35 towards the 36, so make it a gain of 2 for Reynolds as he was dragging a Blue Devil with him in Joseph Malone. Toss left-hand side. There's the quick hitter we were looking for at halftime as Kenny Lewis pulls that in from Birch, and it's a Gateway first down.
That's what we saw on that first drive. Taking what the defense gives you, a little dink and dunk, and Birch didn't have the ball for more than a few seconds there in his hands, and it's a fresh set of downs. Nicely done.
Birch, QB draw, hesitates. Now lost his footing, got tripped up by the 50-yard line, and will be down at around the 48. He could have picked up 3 or 4 more, but still a decent gainer on first down, makes it 2nd and 6.
Yeah, that works. Just put your head down, pick up a chunk there, stay on schedule, 2nd and manageable.
Handoff, Reynolds finds a big crease and has a Gateway first down. Tripped up by 2 Blue Devils in Fred Lesotho and Beckham D.
We've seen this. We've seen them get in rhythm. They got to come away with points here. Not good enough to get in rhythm and drive down the field. Got to execute here when it really matters most.
Birch looking left the whole way, and the pass goes awry as he was looking for Derek Selby, surging towards the line of scrimmage on that far side left.
Well, I'll tell you, on the other side of that, look, Kenny Lewis ends up wide open. Look at that. Would have been a first down and potentially a little bit more, only would have had one man to beat. And so missed a read there. Went with the highlighted option. Not a great ball, but boy, they had an opportunity to get a whole lot more there.
Yeah, they had Lewis on the left, and Harper was streaking down the right-hand side, wide open also. Ball out of the belly of Reynolds. Birch trying to run right, but he's got nowhere to go because Malone is there. He sheds the block of Malik Anderson to make the stop deep in the backfield.
Now you have a tough situation here, but if you don't need all 17 here. If you can pick up half of it or a nice chunk of it here, 10 yards, you give yourself a chance to go for it.
Play action. And Birch, in a slow developing play, gets swallowed up as the tackle is made by Quentin Garland.
And it's tough in these situations, in long 3rd and 17 type situations. You just haven't had the time to allow receivers to get into their routes on these longer throws. And credit to Mount Lebanon. They've just wreaked havoc at the line of scrimmage and made life incredibly difficult. And again, you see some signs of life there from the Gators offense, but no dice on any points there.
Clock winding towards 7 minutes to go. Quarter number 3. Gateway down 14-zip to Mount Lebanon. Good snap. Punt away by Marsh. Takes a very nice Gateway bounce. Continues to roll towards the 20. And Tristan Houston decides not to gamble there, as that ball could have bounced either way after one more hop and could have gone in favor of the Blue Devils. Instead, it'll give the Blue Devils the long field back at the 21, 79 yards away from pay dirt.
And starting about where they did the last time, and good job by the Gators. Got a little assistance on a false start penalty, but were able to get that 3 and out the last time out. And it's a lot of what we saw last season in games where the Gators fell short, is that the defense put in the work and kept the Gators in the conversation. You're talking about a team last year. Still averaged about 25 points a game, but from Birch's sophomore year to junior year, they scored 100 less points. They just have had a hard time finding the end zone.
Draw handoff. Finding some room, showing some strength is Fred Lasota, as he is finally wrapped and hauled to the turf by Jareer Phillips.
Talk about a guy that just continues to run harder and harder as the game goes on. Nice big chunk of yardage there. Sets up a second and very manageable. And again, Mount Lebanon, if they put together a drive here and are able to really salt away some clock, whether they come away with points or not, and you get down toward the close of this third quarter, it makes it very tough for the Gators. Starting to run out of time already.
Power pistol. Handoff. Goes to the tailback, Lasota, and he picks up enough for a first down for the Mount Lebanon Blue Devils. Down at the bottom of the pile, Donovan Biggs.
Yeah, big pop there.
Biggs, 5'8", 170 pounds. The Gator safety. QB right now, Patrick Smith for the Blue Devils. And he's going to run it to the right-hand side off of the QB option. And he's got a lot of room inside of Gateway territory. Finally brought down towards the Gators 40.
Adam, the Gators are really feeling not having Remy Bowes out there on the field. We haven't seen him tonight. Doesn't appear like we're going to. And without that all-conference selection at linebacker, and now Biggs down on the ground, this Gators defense looks gassed and they look a little lost out there.
Biggs is able to get to his feet and try to walk that cramp off to that far sideline. We talked about it earlier, Vince. Things have certainly cooled down, but it's still a hot, humid evening. Not nearly what it was like when the evening started or when the afternoon started when we first got here to Blue Devil Stadium. In fact, it was so humid that there were a little bit of sprinkles, a little bit of rain just because of the amount of moisture in the air.
Yeah, the clouds luckily dissipated quickly, and we've had a really dry, although it doesn't feel super dry with how humid it is, evening. But yeah, these guys are going to feel the toll of that here, especially in this second half. And you got plenty of guys for both of these teams that are playing on both sides of the field. That's going to lead to some attrition.
Taking a look forward for what we'll have for you here on GatewayGatorProductions.com. Boys soccer on Tuesday evening as the Gators take on the Penn Hills Indians. Then next Friday we make the short trip down to Turtle Creek to take on the Woodland Hills Wolverines before girls soccer against Franklin Regional on September 6th. And another football game against the North Hills Indians. You can check out our entire schedule at GatewayGatorProductions.com. Over that right-hand side, it's Fred Lasota. And he will drive his way from the 40 to the 35, a gain of 5. Brings up 2nd down and 5.
Let the clock go.
Yeah, the Blue Devils are just getting that jump off the ball, and by the time the Gators are reacting and getting off of these blocks from the Blue Devils, the ball carrier is already 3-4 yards downfield. And, you know, they're going to take this every single time. If they can continue to just, 5 yards here, 4 yards here, then break one for 12 yards, 13 yards here, it's a recipe to really grind this one away.
Malone stepping under center. Handoff goes to James Green, and Green picks up 4 on 2nd and 5, a flag down in the backfield. So we'll have to check in with our officiating crew to see who the infraction was against. It's a face mask against Gateway, so that'll tack on yardage to the end of the run.
And they were going to have a 3rd and short there. They'd finally gotten Mount Lebanon into a 3rd down situation. That gets nullified with the automatic 1st down there. It'll be interesting. Gators going to have another test next week, another team that is going to be physical and athletic and talented. Although we were checking at the half, Central Catholic up 22-7 on Woodland Hills, the opponent next week at the Wolverina for the Gators. But they've got a couple, and North Hills is projected to be a lot better this year. So the Gators have some tough tests here before they really get into the heart of their conference schedule.
Maybe some movement before the snap, but no whistles blow as Patrick Smith runs left, dancing his way to the near boundary, able to elude some Gateway tacklers, and is finally tossed to the near sideline by Kenny Lewis, but maybe some kind of illegal shift or some call like that against Mount Lebanon to cost them that pickup.
Certainly didn't look like everyone was fully set when that got snapped. And take a look at this replay, Adam, as we wait for the call. It is going to be on the offense, but a lot of guys going up high there, a lot of guys not finishing tackles here in this second half. That's alarming. One thing we really saw these last couple seasons, and what the Gators have been known for, is having a defense that plays very technically sound as well as being super athletic. And there you see a lot of arm tackles, a lot of guys going high. Mount Lebanon's got a lot of size. That's not going to get the job done against a physical offense like the Blue Devils.
Smith again, the quarterback, as they continue to shuffle quarterbacks in and out here in half 2. And as Smith runs to the right-hand side, picks up maybe about 3 before being undercut by a couple of Gateway Gators. Ahmad Harris, amongst others, in on the stop for Gateway.
The other thing we've seen without someone like Dallas Harper in that defensive backfield for the Gators, who graduated now is at Youngstown State, and Remy Bowes, who's not playing tonight, is that big playability for the defense. No turnovers, no forced fumbles. There's been some fumbles on the snaps for the Blue Devils, but no forced fumbles, no interceptions, no generating turnovers to turn defense to offense. And for the Blue Devils, that's how they have half their points tonight.
Again, it's Patrick Smith up the gut. 1st down and more, still on his feet inside of the 10 to the 5, and across the goal line for a Mount Lebanon touchdown, and it's a 3-score game.
This really feels like the antithesis of last year's game and what the Gators were able to do to Mount Lebanon, where they took advantage of a young team that wasn't super deep or super strong inside and just took advantage of battles at the line of scrimmage and wore their opponent down. And right now the Gators, this defense, they've been asked to do a lot in this game, Adam, and they're just starting to look tired.
Patrick Smith, 2nd touchdown of the game, 1 on defense, now 1 on offense. He's certainly going to be a pivotal player for Mount Lebanon, whether he comes in as the substitute quarterback or works his way in as a starter as the season progresses. It looks like the Gators got a piece of that PAT, but it still finds its way across the crossbar and in between the uprights to stretch the lead to 21-0 Mount Lebanon.
It seems like they got a couple options. They haven't had to throw the ball much tonight, but certainly Michael Malone has shown brightly when he's had the opportunity to pull the ball down and run, has made sound decisions and taken good care of the ball. And Mount Lebanon overall has managed to do that throughout this game. And the defense has done everything it can for the Gators to try and stick around in this one, but they've been tasked with a lot, and the offense just, it's hard to find much else to say, Adam, rather than they just haven't been able to win battles up front or allow anything to really develop offensively.
And Vince, as we talked about what's ahead for Gateway in A road game at Woodland Hills next week and a home game against North Hills in 2 weeks. A couple of good teams. The good news for Gateway is those are good tests heading into conference play against Franklin Regional a couple of weeks forward on September 15th. But when you look at the Gators schedule, one big thing and one thing that we talked about last year that I really did not like was that final game of the season against Central Catholic. A meaningless game, interclassification, non-conference. It was basically a scrimmage that Gateway kind of limped into the playoffs, kind of sluggish afterwards, and Central Catholic probably underachieved a bit in the playoffs as well, maybe in part because of that. Gators on the kick return down that far sideline. It's the reserve tailback, Terrence Cole, with another nice return for Gateway. As they will finally mark him down out near the 40-yard line. Finally marking the spot at the 42.
That's the third time they've had the ball past the 30-yard line to start a possession, and both of those other times they had gotten the ball past the 50-yard line and threatened, gotten into dangerous territory, but both times came up short. Obviously that turnover that Patrick Smith took the other way the first time, and they got the ball down to the 11, and then Gators started getting close to the red zone there, had the penalty that backed them up, and then a couple sacks in a row on Brad Birch really put a kibosh on that. Now a little bit of a miscommunication for defensive numbers. See if the Gators can catch them off guard here.
Birch tosses to the near side right, and the pass is complete to Dyson Harper, the 6-foot junior, and yes, that Harper family. And a Gator gain of about 5 out across the 40 to the 41.
You see Birch a little frustrated there. I think he wanted Harper to cut a little bit sharper inside and come back to that ball. By the time it got to him, he had to go to one knee to catch it, and thus wasn't able to gain any yards after the catch.
Birch looks left the whole way, throws left, the pass a bit high through the hands of Derek Selby. And that incomplete pass brings up 3rd down and a handful.
Well, they're starting to call the plays. We talked about what are they going to do to be able to call plays to get the ball out quickly, and there they dial one out and they get a little separation with Selby there in the middle. Might have had an opportunity to go forward for a few yards after the catch, but Birch airmailed that one, wasn't able to put it where it needed to be. Now it's a 3rd and medium situation.
Birch going to run to the left. He's going to tuck. He's going to drive his way forward. Not enough for the first down. And stepping up to make the stop, Marco Eldete for Mount Lebanon.
It does feel like 4-down territory for the Gators, down 3 scores, and every time they give the ball back to Mount Lebanon, you're not sure if you're going to get it back for another 5 or 6 minutes. So I like this call here, going for it on 4th down. It's going to be interesting to see what they dial up.
Toss, Reynolds, nowhere to go. Mount Lebanon was all over that one, and Beckham D ultimately makes the stop for the Mount Lebanon Blue Devils.
Adam, they go to that play so often in situations like that. It feels like sort of a fail-safe play for them, but the catch on that, they're able to get that ball to Reynolds easily, but it's the second time in a short situation where you need a couple yards that the Gators have really tried to go east-west with it and have airmailed what they're doing, and to credit the Blue Devils, they were able to sniff it out really quickly. As the other side, again, you talk about not being able to win those battles up front. Anytime that the Blue Devils have needed a few yards, they've just been able to sort of fall forward, utilize that offensive line, those battles in the trenches to get where they need to go.
So the Blue Devils again with great field position, this time 1st and 10 at the Gateway 41 in the latter stages of quarter 3. To the ground go the Blue Devils. As the Gators defense getting to be a bit on their heels as Fred Lasota drives his way inside of the 40 to around the 37-yard line.
That's the 4th drive of the night where the Blue Devils have started with the ball in Gators territory. That's asking a lot of your defense. They have really no wiggle room before you start getting into field goal range or 4-down territory, which we've seen multiple times tonight, Adams. The Gators have come up with 3 solid defensive stops, but because they're starting drives with the ball at the 45-yard line, by the time they're at the 30-yard line, you don't mind going for it on 4th down, and it's just tough to stop any offense 4 plays in a row from getting 10 yards.
2nd and about a half dozen. To the ground go the Blue Devils. Wiggling his way to the left goes James Green. First one there, Amari Gans for the Gateway defense. And then he gets a little bit of help from Mark Knight. Knight, that right inside linebacker, 6 feet tall, 210 pounds. So far, the way I've watched him play reminds me a lot of Carson Engelke.
There's a blast from a few years past. Quarterback turned into defensive back.
So it's 3rd and 3 for the Blue Devils. Time waning here in quarter 3. Hard count for Malone. Low snap, hand off. Bouncing it to the right, James Green. He's got the first down. He needed to get to the 31 and got just inside of the 31 on the final play of quarter number 3. Well, that is certainly not the way the third quarter wanted to play out for the Gateway Gators. I mean, Gateway had an opportunity after moving the ball early in their first possession, just like early in their first possession of the football game, but that stalled, and it's been all Mount Lebanon just like it was in the first half.
Boy, and again, credit to the Blue Devils. When they get the ball, they hold on to it, and they've just taken the wind out of the sails. There's no rhythm for the Gators offense because they're having to wait 15, 20 minutes in between drives. And so there's no chance to really get that cohesion or get that rhythm, as it feels like they've had just such limited opportunities. And that probably plays into a lack of confidence or some anxiety around, we've got the ball, we got to make sure not to give it back, because if we do, we're not going to be able to get back on the field for a little bit. Mount Lebanon just has taken over this game.
Let's take a look at the Gators Conference, the WPIAL 5A Big East Conference. Franklin Regional, Gateway, the #1 team in both the Trib and Post-Gazette. Hempfield, Norwin, Penn Trafford, unranked on the Trib side, but #5 in the PG. And the Plum Mustangs, like you said earlier, Vince, Plum, a team that has some talent coming back, but like I said, a team, a community that's got a whole lot to play for, something to rally around.
My goodness, and here in Western Pennsylvania, football is so ingrained as a part of a community, really a touch point where neighbors shut down everything else for the evening and get together and spend time together, and certainly that's a community that's hurting, and so hopefully that is able to be some sort of source of comfort as the Mustangs taking on Plum tonight. And they were up by a point earlier, 7-6 over the Cavaliers. And we saw a few out-of-town scoreboards for the Big East.
Patrick Smith running left. Nowhere to go that time, as Mott Harris makes the stop for the Gateway Gators. Got to give a lot of credit to Michael Colati. Cobbled together a staff and has really gotten this Mount Lebanon team ready for week 0.
They look great. And it'll be interesting, in games where maybe they don't have quite the size advantage. Are they going to be able to go to the air? They've been really reluctant to because they haven't had to pass the ball at all. So they've been successful with sort of a one-dimensional offense. And will they have to change that as the season goes on? It'll be interesting to see.
Smith again running right. Hesitated for a moment. Now he's going to surge his way forward. Forced out of bounds along the near boundary as Mark Knight will be credited with a stop.
So you talk about the out-of-town scoreboard. Plum has extended that lead 14-6. Woodland Hills down 22-7 to Central Catholic. In a game of note, sort of interesting early season non-conference. We know that they graduated a lot of folks, but Upper St. Clair and Norwin deadlocked at 14 in the third quarter. So Norwin, I know, not a team that a lot of folks have high expectations of this year, but getting a chance to pull an upset in the non-conference.
Straight eye backfield behind Malone. And Malone is going to hand off to the fullback. And up the cut he shall rumble. And again, it's Beckham D on the carry for Mount Lebanon.
Nothing super exciting or exhilarating about this offense. A lot of 3 yards and a cloud of dust. Credit to the Blue Devils. They've done everything they can to limit their opportunity to make mistakes, to allow the Gators back into this one, and just continuing to let this clock continue to wind.
Reserve tailback Cole Gibbons in the game for Mount Lebanon, and he'll pick up enough for a Blue Devil first down towards the 10-yard line.
You do wonder if you'll start to see some reserves come in for either team, as this game at this point, especially if Mount Lebanon's able to come away with points here, is going to be out of hand at this point for the Gators. And so they'll have to turn their attention to next week. And at this point, it's risk versus reward, keeping some of your starters in there in a game that doesn't really mean all that much.
Smith rolling right, met initially, and then was able to sidestep that and slide his way forward inside the 10 to around the 9.
Gators have done a good job bending and not breaking on the majority of these drives down deep in their own territory. They've just had too many instances where they've been called upon to try and do it.
.9:15 as the clock winds here in quarter 4. Shotgun with a sidecar to the left-hand side of QB Malone is Green. Malone's going to roll left. He's going to throw left. Has a receiver open in the end zone for a Blue Devil touchdown as Henry Lahota pulls that one in.
So we do see the Blue Devils go to the passing game, and they're able to find the cracks in the back of that Gators defense there and turn that into 6. Nice play there. And I think the thing that is really interesting about that play design and you know, the Gators, take a look here, you got to be really worried about number 1 using his feet, because he's gassed you all night, being able to pull it down and run with it. And so he kind of hinted at that for a second, pulled it back, finds the receiver in the back of the end zone. Nice pitch and catch.
Blue Devil player down, getting stretched out over there on that far sideline after the Mount Lebanon touchdown, which puts them out on top 27-0 over the Gateway Gators. So looking forward for Gateway, we've talked about this already, will be the Woodland Hills Wolverines, old conference rivals, but now out of conference rivals before they finally return to the friendly confines of Pete Annamarino Stadium to take on North Hills and Franklin Regional. We'll travel to Plum before hosting the Hemfield Spartans. Then it's a road game in the Battle of the Bell as the Gators hold the bell right now, as they will take on the Penn Trafford Warriors on October 6th before hosting the McKeesport Tigers out of 4A, a team that really laid it to the Gators at the end of the season last year. And the Gators were able to bounce back well against the Norwood Knights before losing, as we said, a very inconsequential game against Central Catholic to round out the regular season.
But keeping in mind, the Gators did lose 3 out of their last 4 at the end of last season, and you wonder if there's some residual frustration or lack of confidence, as a lot of those games looked eerily similar to this one from the offensive standpoint. You talk about, yeah, the Gators averaged 25 points a game last year, but they scored 100 of those points in total against the likes of Norwin and Hempfield, which left only 150 points for the remainder of those other 9 games, which is well under 20 points a game at that point. So far, a goose egg tonight.
The PAT is up and in for Mount Lebanon's Bernard McCauley, and Mount Lebanon stretches their lead to 28-0. Well, the good news is, Vince, as we look forward at the extended forecast for next Friday, as you know, we're a bit shoehorned into the press box here at Mount Lebanon. The same would be true at Woodland Hills, but looks like it's going to be nice enough for us to set up a couple of tables out in the bleachers and enjoy a nice evening between the Gateway Gators and the Woodland Hills Wolverines.
And I don't mind that. I don't mind that. I like being right on top of the action. You know, there's such an energy in high school football here, especially in Western Pennsylvania. You even hear people talk about it on local media, national media, that this area in general, people talk about high school football in Western Pennsylvania and sort of the atmosphere that it creates. And you know, there's, especially covering 5A, there's going to be so many interesting storylines, as there are every year. Teams that surprise us, teams that disappoint us, teams that are traditionally very, very good. Rivalries and matchups. You know, we see in college football that the dissolving of so many natural rivalries and games that you circle on the calendar. But we're going to have the Battle of the Bell again this year. And that's exciting that we get to have these games. That they, while they're not playing Penn Hills in the regular season, they're playing Woodland Hills, the Gators are. And that's a rivalry that should continue to happen. And it's going to be great that we're going to be able to be at the Wolverina next week.
.901 to play in regulation. Looks like Mount Lebanon is going to start their season off 1-0. Unless the Gators can pull off what would be quite miraculous considering the way this game has gone thus far. Nice return there. The Gators seem to have found themselves a pretty nice 1-2 punch in that return game, especially when Terrence Cole gets his hands on the ball.
Yeah, the only thing he's got to do is catch it right away, and he could be 3 or 4 yards further upfield before these guys really get their heads around to trying to tackle him. Other than that, I can't disagree. He was able to come up and field that shorter kick the last time and got it up over the 30-yard line. He's been elusive and stuck his head down and gone north to south, which has been productive.
A few of the Gateway faithful have started to make their way out of Mount Lebanon Stadium, but the Gateway Marching Band still holding true on that far sideline. Students still standing pat over on the other end from the Gateway Marching Band here at Mount Lebanon Stadium. Like we said, there was clearly some excitement heading into this game for Gateway. They necessitated a second student bus to make their way to Mount Lebanon. And so certainly a smattering of some unhappy kids standing over there watching their football team down 28-0 to lift the lid on the 2023 season.
Now, this doesn't happen to the Gators all that often, so it's pretty unfamiliar territory. The last time we really saw this was that McKeesport game last year. But other than that, it's hard to really point at too many games where the Gators haven't been super competitive in wins or losses.
Low snap, Birch tosses right, complete to Harper. Harper to the 30 before he's hauled back and spun down. Sure-handed Harper there.
Looks like a flag came in late.
So it's a personal foul against Mount Lebanon. Now we've seen Mount Lebanon showing off a bit, we'll say, as this game has gone on. I remember earlier Beckham D made a stop on a play on that far sideline, came up, had something to say to the Gateway bench. On that previous play, Harper had the catch, got spun down, got up, and got knocked down again. So,
well, let's not forget this is a revenge game for Mount Lebanon from last year.
Birch going to draw and drive his way across the line of scrimmage and pick up about 3.
Again, someone coming in completely unscathed for Mount Lebanon. It's been that way all night. That seems like there's been a missed assignment for this offensive line. Just about every drop back pass play.
Patrick Smith made the tackle on that previous play as Jaquan Reynolds gets his best carry of the football game. Juked his way forward inside of the 40 to the 39.
Now Reynolds does a good job, a little shiftiness here, and then just sort of putting that shoulder down and moving himself forward, getting a couple more yards at the end there.
Again, the handoff to Reynolds up the gut. Met at the line of scrimmage. Maybe he'll pick up a yard or two. As down at the bottom of the pile is Connor Young, who we talked about before the game, headed to Navy next year. Had many D1 offers and decided that he's not only going to go to college, but serve our nation as well. As Birch goes to the air, throwing to the near side left, and the pass will be caught down near the turf by Kenny Lewis, down on his shoe tops.
That'll be enough for a first down as Lewis, a good job there. Caught one a little short earlier, the sticks. Did a good job making sure that his route took him past that first down marker so that when he caught the ball, already had that first down secured.
Look back to the near side left. The pass will be incomplete. It was up in the air, hanging there for Kenny Lewis. There were 2 Blue Devils back in the vicinity, including Timothy Jenkins. An ultimately incomplete pass brings up 2nd and 10.
Now Birch wanted a pass interference call, but it looked pretty fair. That one just a little underthrown. It did. It sort of hung there for a bit. So Lewis unable to come back to that.
A very welcome breeze starting to blow into the press box here at Mount Lebanon. As there's pass thrown to the near side left and down the near boundary with some speed and strength is Derek Selby, finally forced to the boundary by Matthew Nguyen.
At this point, Mount Lebanon just not trying to get beat deep over the top, and so they'll allow that all day. A bit of a chokehold of a tackle there at the end. I think Selby took a little bit of objection to that, but move the chains again.
Birch throwing near side left. Nice job tiptoeing on the sidelines and pulling that one in again. It's Selby.
He really flourished when he was given the opportunity in targets last season. He was, not utilized in respect to some of the targets like Dallas Harper, but has a chance this year to make some plays.
QB draw. Birch running right, lowers his shoulder and into the end zone. He will go for their first Gateway touchdown of the season.
Well, Birch showing a little toughness there. Certainly been a frustrating evening. Got to dole it out a little bit that time. He's been on the receiving end of a few hits tonight. You can see good blocking by Reynolds there. He's able to make one man miss, and at the end just puts that shoulder down, goes through the defender. Gators are on the board. Won't get goose egg tonight, but might be just a little too late to try and mount any sort of feverish comeback.
No, but you've got to build some pride. You've got to, build some confidence. And an offensive drive like that, much like the one that started the game, is something that you can build upon heading into next week against Woodland Hills and into the future once you start to play conference play on September 15th.
Undoubtedly. And we do talk about at a few key positions, the Gators do have a lot coming back. But we talked about it. One of the focal story points coming into this game was 7 of 11 starting offensive defensive line positions vacated from last season into this season. And so not to be unexpected that the Gators are going to have some growing pains at those key positions, and you've got different guys that you're calling upon on both sides of the ball who were role players last year, but this year trying to be those guys. And again, we didn't see Remy Bose tonight for whatever reason, and that's a big focal point in the middle of your defense. And Mount Lebanon was able to take advantage of that with the way they ran the ball this evening.
Talked about the way the Gators offensive line has had their struggles. The defensive front had their tough times as well, as Mount Lebanon has been able to move the ball on the ground quite well, both with backs and with the running QBs, both Smith and even Malone at times, especially Malone in the first half on, 4th downs. You got to give some credit to a gentleman I recognized on the near sideline, Tom Mihaloff, who's one of the offensive line coaches for the Mount Lebanon Blue Devils, a longtime high school football coach, coached at Woodland Hills, coached at Sarah Catholic, coached at South Park, and now he's at Mount Lebanon. Onside kick for Gateway will bounce to the 50-yard line. And there is a massive humanity for a moment that has to unpile, but it unpiles quickly. And at the bottom of the pile where the football is Fred Lesota for Mount Lebanon. You've got to assume that possession right there for Mount Lebanon pretty much is the nail in the coffin for the Gateway Gators.
Yeah, just at this point, even if they do get a 3 and out without calling timeouts, it just becomes a numbers game. And if they have enough time, and while we saw a nice methodical drive there by the Gators, we haven't seen the big play ability tonight, the chunk play ability, at least consistently. No shots downfield.
Power pistol for Mount Lebanon. Malone is the QB. He is going to hand off to Lesota, who carries it into Gateway territory for a gain of about 2. Looked like Ahmad Harris on the tackle for Gateway. And it is Harris down at the bottom of that pile. 6'1" senior, listed as a tight end, but has played mostly linebacker thus far tonight. 2nd and 8 for Mount Lebanon. One back set with Malone under center this time. Running right, Lesota. Close to first down yardage as he is brought down by TJ Mitchell. Also in on the stop, Elijah Fisher.
And a good job continuing to just keep themselves in such fortuitous situations. 3rd and short, 4th and short. Keeping that clock running.